Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and here with me, as always, is Omar Pozos, my co-host and husband. Omar, what are you looking forward to right now?
In general, or just like today?
Just in general.
I am looking forward to, let's see, I would say like the holiday season. I know it's very early in the holiday season, but today it dropped below 70 in Florida. So I'm like, all right, I can feel the fall spirit. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting some time with family. But yeah, that's really it. What about you?
You stole my answer. I was going to say the holidays.
You gotta be quick.
Yeah, you saw, but just for the listeners too, one of our team members, Coach Witt, she is the most Christmassy person I've ever known in my life, and I love it about her. And it's October, and she already has her Christmas tree up, and it just makes me so happy every time I'm on a Zoom call with her, and I just see her Christmas tree all lit up and beautiful behind her.
Me up.
But it really does. It brings the joy, and it helps me even just get excited of like, oh my gosh, I just love this time of year so much.
Yeah. When is it appropriate or I guess for you, when is it appropriate to have the Christmas tree up?
I'm a day after Thanksgiving person.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, that's fair.
I like to like really feel each holiday for what it is.
So like pumpkins for Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then we can do Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I like it.
Yeah. But, the holidays, I think it's a good segue actually into what we're talking about, because this is a topic I wanted to dive into as we do head into the holiday season. This episode's coming out the week of Halloween, really kicks off.
Spooky season. Yeah,
kicks off all of the holidays that are just, food is a big part of it, right? And I find I've been there myself, and, for you listening, like tell me if this sounds familiar, or Omar, tell me if this sounds familiar for you. Like you may go into a season, you may go into a weekend, you may go into a trip, and you are following a nutrition plan, and you just have the best of intentions for it. You're like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to have. This is what I'm not going to have. Maybe leading up to it, like let's say Monday through Friday, you've just been kind of crushing your plan. You're doing the things, you're prepping your meals, you're getting your workouts in. And then you go into, let's say the weekend, and you just kind of maybe make one decision that wasn't what you had planned for, and suddenly you feel like, man, I have just completely kind of gone off of the plan. I've gone off, and now that just starts to kind of domino effect into another choice that wasn't what you intended, and then another choice that didn't really align with what your intentions were for that period of time. And suddenly you find yourself now, let's say end of the weekend, end of the trip, end of the holiday, whatever it is, and you're just lying in bed and you're just like, I don't feel good. You're like, why did I do that? I was doing so well. And just kind of like thoughts start to spiral, right? Maybe it's pizza night with the family that goes from, I'm just going to have one slice and, my protein, my veggies on the side. But then it turns into you're like still grabbing slices of pizza from the box when everybody else is done. Or maybe it's
ice cream. Ice cream is it's my weakness.
Maybe it's like you go to dinner with the friends and you're like, I'm just going to have, my healthy choice. But then you're like, well, I guess I'll just have one drink if everybody's having a drink. And before you know it, you're 4 drinks in and going out for ice cream after dinner, right? Like it just, all it takes is sometimes we make one choice that we weren't planning on making, and we just kind of let our brain go crazy about what that choice means, and suddenly we're snowballing into making other choices that don't leave us feeling good. And now you just feel like I blew it. You feel bad about yourself. The food guilt really starts to kick in. And if anybody's listening and they're like, yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head, it's because I get it. I've been there many times. And I want you to know, if you have been there, maybe you're there right now, maybe you tuned in this episode because you're like, yep, that was me this past weekend, and you're feeling all the feels. I want you to know, like, you didn't blow it. You didn't blow anything. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You are purely human. And I want to walk you through in this episode how to really get, back on track. As much as I don't even really love that phrasing of back on track. You didn't even fall off track, but I want to help you kind of get back to a place where you feel good about yourself and what you're doing. And we get away from the guilt, we get away from the punishment, and we just can actually feel good about what we're doing. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it happens to me. It happened to me that past weekend where I'm like, I have all the intentions in the world. We went to a work trip last week, but we get there and I get caught up with, the emotions and people. I'm like, oh, what's one treat or another? And then, yeah, to your point, it's always this like never ending cycle. which is why I'm excited to kind of hear what you have prepared for us today, Ness.
Yeah, I think, I think back on, gosh, even like the years that we've been doing this podcast for, and I think back to my relationship with food in the beginning episodes of this podcast compared to how it is today. I can really see, looking back, how every instance where maybe I struggled with food at periods of time, how it actually helped develop my character, helped develop my relationship with food for the positive, because I had to work through these things. And now it's something that I do feel like I can proudly say I can help a lot of women through these types of food guilt scenarios because I've done it with myself. And, looking back, I think about how just somewhere along the way, I think especially with our generation, diet culture really taught us that success equals perfection. That in order to be successful, we have to be 100% perfect. I hear it all the time where clients come in and they tell me, yeah, like I tend to be a little bit all or nothing. And like they say it, kind of like facetiously a little bit like, oh, I know I am that way, but it's something we really have to work through together. This mindset that if you're not on, then you're off. Like it's an on and off switch, right? That one weekend of making choices that aren't aligned with our goals has ruined our progress. That we're just completely losing our results now because of a few days of being off plan. And the reality is, you do not lose your results in a few days. It does not work that way. Just like you cannot create results in a few days. I think most people understand that concept, that within, 3 days, you didn't suddenly solve all your health issues, lose all the weight, feel amazing. Like 3 days can create momentum, but it's not going to actually create success, right? Same thing on the flip side of that. 3 days of going off plan per se did not destroy your results. It did not just, you're not a failure because of it. Your body is way too smart and way too resilient for that. And that's a beautiful thing. Progress is not about being perfect. It's just about how you recover, how you get back on track. And when you do learn how to recover well, which is something, a point I want to make, is that each time you have these instances is an opportunity to learn, is an opportunity to just get better and better at getting back on track, better and better at recovering. Every time you do so, the instances become less and less dramatic. It becomes less and less of this just like big failure moment in your head where you're beating yourself up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get that way. You prove to yourself every single time that you just recover from it. They're like, oh, okay, I thought I was completely off track, but actually that didn't really seem to make much of a difference. A few weeks later, right back where I was. And it's like, oh, that was no big deal. And then each and every time it becomes less emotional. And that's the thing. If we can remove the emotion, we can remove the feelings, we can just focus on it as data, as feedback, it actually helps you grow and it helps you get better and better and better at navigating these kinds of scenarios that are always going to come up because we're human, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing that people forget. We are human and we are going to have emotions. And if it was just like, here's the data, follow these numbers, and everybody would do it. But to your point, I think it starts with giving yourself a little bit of grace, kind of just having that reality check and being like, all right, what is realistic for me? Like, for example, this weekend I'm going to a wedding, and the first thing I'm like, well, I'm not drinking in general. I'm like, is that really realistic? Is that really going to happen? And so instead I'm like, well, all right, well, what's the next best thing? And kind of what you were saying, like that, it's not the on and off, it's that dimmer switch where it's like, okay, so I'm like, what if I have 1 to 2 drinks, per day, Friday and Saturday? And like, if that works for me, then great. And to me, that feels more realistic, but also too, it's more mindful because I'm like, I'm not restricting myself to the point where I get to the situation and I'm going to overdo it too.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of part of what inspired this episode actually was I was thinking back on 2020, I believe it was, when you and I actually, we were living in Atlanta and we came down to Tampa Bay to visit my family for a weekend and kind of just kind of have like a little bit of a mini vacation. And I remember like vividly, because I just saw a photo from it the other day and it reminded me of all the feelings came back up. I remember vividly going into that weekend telling myself like, oh, I'm going to stay mindful. I think I was like, in kind of like a diet phase at the time, trying to lose weight. I was like, I'm just going to stay mindful. I'm going to just, have my meals. I'm just going to, keep things balanced. And, you know how that goes, right? I think we went out for dinner one night and somehow it just turned into like us going to Publix and getting like the whole tray of like the different types of cheesecakes.
Yeah.
And I just remember like that night going to bed and being like, oh, I have so many regrets. Like I feel awful. And it things spiral so fast, right? We so quickly fall into that, like, screw it. I'll just get back on track when I'm back home, when I'm, back after this trip, right? So quickly, our mind just goes there, which is so wild. But the reality is, when I did get back, I think for like several days, I just felt so cranky. I was bloated. I was completely just spiraling in my head. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, Vanessa, you are a coach. You help people with these things. You do this for a living, and you can't even stick to a plan for a weekend, right? I was completely beating myself up, holding myself to this standard that I should be perfect because I help others with this. And let me tell you, the shame voice was very loud. But I vividly remember that because it also was a big turning point for me. I remember also working myself through it in real time. Like, wait a second. Okay, you didn't actually ruin anything. I can logically look at the data. I can logically look at the information. And I know that progress does not vanish in 48 hours. And just because I feel not good in my body right now does not mean that this is forever. The reality is your body isn't actually punishing you. It isn't judging you. That's purely your brain doing that. And when you drop the judgment, when you just kind of let it be of just like, okay, that happened. I feel this way. Makes sense. I feel this way. Moving on, getting right back to it becomes so much easier just to get back to normal. And I did that enough times year after year to where nowadays I really don't have these big swings off, because if I make one choice that is not planned, that is not, in alignment with what I had planned to do, let's say when we're traveling, it doesn't even feel like a big deal. It just feels like, oh, didn't plan on doing this, but I'm doing this. And it doesn't spiral into, well, now I'm going to have this, now I'm going to have that, because I'm guilting myself. It's just, it is what it is. I have it. I enjoy it. And then I continue with the plan. And that's the difference of when we don't guilt ourselves.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously you mentioned 2020 now being 2025. That's 5 years of trials, errors, things that works, things that don't work for you. What do you think has made that biggest difference? Or what do you think has gotten you to this point of now being in a much better place, being more mindful, giving yourself more grace, would you say?
I think there are 5 big things with this that I want to hit on. That I look at, now I think about it, I'm like, oh, 5 years, 5 lessons.
Oh, there you go.
But really, I think there's 5 main lessons that for myself, I've really had to learn time and time again, but finally have really just stuck with me to where I really come back to these 5 things. The first one being, your body is not broken. Your body is not broken. It is just responding.
Every single time you say your body, I think of that John Mayer song. It's like, your body is a wonderland. You know what I'm talking about? Anyways, that's what's going through my head.
Yeah. So that's what Omar is going through in his head after he falls off, where I'm like, your body is broken. So the reality is, okay, let's think about it factually. And if you are in this place right now where you're like, you're having these thoughts, I really want you to think about this with me. When you overeat, you might feel puffy, you might feel tired, you might feel bloated, but all that is feedback from your body. It is your body responding to the inputs of the weekend, of the food choices you had. It is your body saying like, hey, like I'm not used to that much sugar, or I'm not used to that much alcohol. Like that was different. And so I am responding by actually working through some systems in my body. And because of that, feeling a little bit more fatigued. Working through clearing that out, that's hard work for your liver. So your liver's working hard, so your body feels a little bit more tired, and you're having trouble clearing other things out. So now you're a little bit more puffy. Now you're holding on to a little bit more water. Now your digestion has slowed down a little bit because your body's just prioritizing, getting out the alcohol or getting out some of the foods that you don't normally eat, that your body is a little bit like, oh, not used to processing this. So it's taking a little bit longer. That's all your body is doing. It is purely responding. So instead of panicking, instead of making it mean something about, you or your body's abilities, or giving it this like permanence of, oh my gosh, I'm always going to be, thick and puffy because you feel thick and puffy right now. Instead, just like get curious about it. Ask your body, okay, what does my body need right now? What do I need? Do I need more water? Do I need a little more movement? Do I need, maybe some more veggies, even if they don't really sound that great right now? Do I need maybe more sleep? Like these are really actually the things your body probably needs, not restriction, definitely not punishment. Does not mean you need to go and sweat it out in the sauna or on the treadmill. You just need to actually give your body the chance to catch up to that input and get back to baseline again. The second thing, progress is built over time, not erased overnight. We hit on this a little bit already, but I need to double down on this lesson here. It takes months of consistent habits, consistent habit building, consistent repetition in order to do things like building muscle, getting our hormones in balance, losing fat. Like, we know this, right? We talk about how it takes 3 months to build an egg follicle. So we know that it takes at least 3 months to really see our hormones get into balance. We talk about how it is really not very healthy to lose more than 1 to 2% of your body weight per week anyway. So if we're working on losing body fat, we don't really want to see much more loss than that. So like, we get that when it comes to losing weight, that it's a slow, steady process of months of working on that, right? Then why is it that we suddenly think the opposite when it comes to 3 days or 5 days off plan, or maybe even one night off plan? We're suddenly like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've gained so much weight. I feel like I've just gained it all back. I feel like my hormones are now out of balance. I feel like my gut is completely messed up. It's like, no, you're just feeling a little bit off. That's not how it works. So
well, and I think that's why it's so important for, like, for example, somebody that, you know, you can't go from 0 to 100 and then be like, okay, now my whole life, my lifestyle, my sleep schedule, my eating schedule is going to change overnight, and expect for you to stay on it. So that's why I think, you know, like you said, that dimmer switch is so huge, and going maybe 30%, 40% of the way to help you stay consistent, so that you don't get into this cycle of like, oh, if it doesn't happen overnight, I can't stick with it kind of thing. That's, I think, what people forget. And ultimately, that's what makes things sustainable too.
Yeah. I want to emphasize what you hit on there of the dimmer switch. Notice, you guys, earlier I said the on-off switch. Omar's referring to, instead of thinking of an on-off switch, think of a dimmer switch. Think of like a light dimmer versus a light on and off. That's how we need to approach our habits and our behaviors, and, you know, how on versus off we are. It's not black and white. It is literally a just spectrum of, you know, to what end of the scale are we more leaning towards, and you're going to vary at different points in time. But just because the scale, you know, maybe jumps up a few pounds, maybe, you know, the scale jumped up a lot of pounds, like that can happen. And I guarantee you, it's not fat. You're not gaining fat that fast. It is water. It is glycogen, which is carbohydrates getting stored in the muscle. It is inflammation, which is going to just be temporary. If we just get back on track, you can lose that inflammation again. You're not damaging your body long term. Just give it a few days of consistency of just going right back to what you were doing before. You do not need to overcorrect. Just go back to the same thing. Give your body time, and it will re-regulate again. The third lesson here, and I think this is so important and so overlooked, joy is part of health. This is important. We forget this all the time. Food is not just about the nutrients you're getting from it. Food is not just about caloric energy. Food is also emotional. It's cultural, it's connective. And I think this is especially important to talk about in the holiday season. You know, our clients are often surprised to find that, like, we'll encourage them, like, enjoy some meals around the holidays. Like, even if, you know, you have someone who has like a lot going on in their body, let's say they have a autoimmune disease, they have some severe gut dysbiosis, they have a lot of different things, we still mentally might need to just relax a little bit around the holiday season, because we have to think about the mental load that we carry when we're doing hard things with food and with, you know, protocols and functional health. So sometimes it actually might be the healthiest thing for you to say yes to something that maybe was a little bit more spontaneous and unplanned. Maybe it was you weren't planning on going out to dinner, but you're like, you know what, for my mental health and like for my nervous system and for my stress levels, actually going out to dinner and just allowing myself to just enjoy that, that's actually what's going to feel like the healthiest thing for me right now, as opposed to me saying, no, you can't do that, you're bad if you do that, and like making yourself feel just even worse and more stressed about it. Of course, we have to weigh the pros and cons. And if we're doing that all the time, we have to be honest with ourselves that, you know, if we're trying to heal our body and we're just constantly making that choice, then we might need to work through that and see, hey, how can we turn the dimmer switch a little bit in the other direction to make sure that we are also nourishing our body. We are also looking at food as energy and as fuel, but we have to have that balance. And balance is going to look different for different people. And for some people, that looks like pizza and progress, right? Doesn't mean that you can never have these things ever again, right? We have to just do most of the time what we know is good for us, and just let what happens once in a while happen once in a while. And it's okay.
Can you speak a little bit on like you were saying, how sometimes joy is part of it too, and that's going to help you, one, stay sustainable, but like tactically, like on the hormonal side of things with like cortisol and stress levels. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, it's, again, we talk often about cortisol and how that impacts the entire hormonal cascade. And if you are stressing yourself out over your food choices.
I like to kind of picture it as like a cup, right? Where you're already stressed out and go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I think that's a great analogy of like, imagine this bucket. In that bucket is your capacity for stress. If we have stress from work going into the bucket, we have stress from like physical stress of your body's working through a lot of things. Your body is stressed because there's a lot of hormonal imbalances. There's gut issues, like those are stressors. So
inflammation.
You've got that's physical stress in the body. Maybe you're working out. That's stress on the body. Like there could be these other things. And now if you're like, oh, well, I'm beating myself up over my food choices. I'm stressing over what I can and can't have because I'm creating this narrative in my head of like, I can't ever have those things. I can never have them. Like you're creating more stress. Mentally, perceived stress is going to be high and you're just adding more stress to the bucket and you might actually having more reactions in your body over it. So it's a very important thing to talk about. The next lesson here is sustainability over deadlines. This is important. I mean, how often do we have women who come to us and are like, I'm getting married in 6 months and I need to be down 30 pounds by then. It's like, okay, but you also just came off birth control. You also have symptoms of a lot of gut dysbiosis. You also have this and that. Like
you also have high stress levels because you're planning this wedding.
Yeah, it's like your body may not be in a place where you are in a good spot to lose weight for that wedding. And if we grab on to this attachment of I have to weigh a certain number by a specific date, we're going to create more stress in our body. And so this matters with this conversation around, messing up your diet, quote unquote, is because if you are like, I have to stay on a certain deadline of, by this date, not even thinking about the wedding thing, but it could be just for whatever reason. Some people will choose a certain date that's like, I have to lose X amount of weight by that date. And they have 1 week where they fall off and maybe the scale goes up and now they're freaking out. So like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it to that deadline. The freaking out, the stress around that makes it a lot harder for your body to come back to baseline again. So you're actually setting yourself up by setting deadlines. I always encourage people, give your body time. If you give your body the gift of time and let your body heal in its own timing, you'll get there actually faster than you will if you're trying to pressure yourself. It's like from the book Chop Wood, Carry Water, where to anybody who's read that book, the kid is learning from like the samurai master and he asks like, okay, I want to become a warrior as fast as possible. Like if I go and do, extra time practicing every single day, can I get there faster? And he's like, no, actually it'll take you twice the time because you'll just exhaust yourself. You might injure yourself, this and that. He's like, if you rush the process, it'll actually take you longer. If you just let it take as much time as it needs to take, you actually will end up getting there faster. And honestly, I do think there's also the fact of like, you're going to enjoy the journey a whole lot more if you give yourself that peace, that permission to just kind of relax in the journey a little bit more.
Yeah.
Last lesson, and this one really, really important. The comeback matters so much more than the mess up. I alluded to this a little bit earlier. Every single time that you fall off, that you mess up, it's actually an opportunity to practice the skill of getting back on track, to practice the skill of coming back. And what separates successful people from the people who just stay stuck, it's not that they never mess up. Successful people aren't just like these perfect people who never mess up. I mess up. Everybody messes up. Like it's, Omar just shared last weekend that he kind of, didn't follow his plan.
I don't mess up, for the record. I'm perfect.
Off record, he does. No, it's that the successful people, they don't let one off moment become this full-blown off week. They don't let one choice that wasn't in alignment become 5 choices that wasn't in alignment. You don't have to start over on Monday. You don't have to start over after the trip. You don't have to start over after the holiday. You just make your next choice one that supports your goals. So if you're actively in the moment making a choice where you're taking a bite of the cake when you're like, wasn't planning on having cake here, but I'm eating this cake, rather than your brain in that moment going, you're messing up, you dang it, you messed up, you're terrible, and like letting your brain go in that direction, just be like, I'm just gonna enjoy this cake. I'm just gonna enjoy this spontaneous moment of eating the cake. After I set the cake down, then it's like, okay, great, back to my normal plans, back to my normal things. Maybe I go for a walk after I eat the cake because I logically also know that there's a little bit more sugar in that cake, and walking actually helps my body process the excess sugar, and it helps my body clear it out a little bit more, rather than now I'm going to go binge on a bunch of other sweets and then go lay, horizontal on the couch and just make myself feel bad. It's like, let me just enjoy it for what it is, and maybe go do something that feels good for me too.
I think another way, and if I could add this, the way I think about it too is, and I say this in every aspect of my life, whether it's business or work, professional life, personal life, I think success and failures, they leave clues. And so to me, I'm like, okay, that was a great weekend. I did really, really well. Well, let me analyze that for a little bit and just like, what did I do that led me to that point? And on the opposite side, it's like, okay, that weekend, I just totally messed up, and meaning like I just didn't stay on track, or that wasn't realistic, that wasn't sustainable. And again, same concept. I'm like, okay, well, what can I learn from that so that the next weekend I can, if I was 50%, I'm like, can I be 55% better? Can I be 60% better? Right. But I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong, unfortunately, is they're like, hey, I'm just going to keep doing the same things over and over and expect different results. And I'm pretty sure that's the definition of insanity. But it's like, hey, you've got to learn from some of these things if this is truly a priority for you. If you're like, whatever, it is what it is, I'm like, well, then that's a different story. But if you're like, okay, I genuinely want to get better, I genuinely want to lose the weight, support my gut, improve hormones, I'm like, well, then we got to do it now, because otherwise it just keeps getting worse and worse. You keep feeling worse yourself. You keep feeling even low energy or more inflamed. So I'm like, we've got to really start to put a process and systems in place. And this is where, honestly, I think having somebody in your corner that can help you, that can highlight those things, that can point those things out is so helpful. But that's just, to me, I'm like, we've really got to look at things on the like data side and be like, okay, what's working, what's not working, just like you would in any other aspect of things too.
Yeah, 100%. A tool that I like to bring in to coaching conversations sometimes is the 2-minute rule. So when we do have these emotions, let's say we are experiencing guilt around our food choices or around whatever things we did or didn't do, it's okay that you're feeling the guilt. And when the guilt hits, rather than just like sitting in it and letting it just get worse and worse and worse day after day, or not allowing yourself to feel it at all, brushing it down, pushing it away, just feel it. Give yourself 2 minutes, set a timer, and don't stuff it down. Literally set, like I actually mean set a 2-minute timer and allow yourself to feel that feeling for a full 2 minutes.
This is so hard for me. I don't like this exercise.
Men don't like to feel their feelings.
I
don't. Maybe encourage your husbands to try this because they need it too. But just set a timer and acknowledge, okay, here's what I'm feeling. I feel disappointed because I overate. I wasn't planning on having more than 1 slice of pizza, and instead I had 4, and I feel kind of bloated, and I just feel like I'm having these thoughts and feelings that I've set myself backwards, and that I, undid the progress I've worked so hard for, and now I'm starting from zero. And like, just acknowledge the feeling, kind of like just let yourself sit in it and let yourself feel it. But when that timer is up, get up, like literally move, change positions, maybe go for a walk, just break the situation and decide that now you are actually going to go and do something that is good for you, because continuing to sit in that feeling is not good for you. Allowing yourself to feel it for a few moments is good for you. Continuing to stay in that place, now you're just choosing to sit there and to hold yourself back. But you could make a different choice, and that choice could be literally go get some movement, go for a gentle walk outside, go and just like notice the temperature outside, go and notice what color the sky is today, like go and just like be present in the moment and actually express maybe some gratitude for the good things in your life, and just take at least one action that aligns with who you want to be, even if you don't feel like that person today. I'm telling you, that is how you teach your brain that these situations are okay. So that the next time it happens, you actually have a past experience that your nervous system can actually draw on to be like, oh, okay. Like, even though I still have some feelings about it, last time this happened, it actually didn't end up being this like major emergency. It ended up being okay. It ended up being fine. So you actually have less and less of a nervous system response to it. And guess what? That's how over time, year after year, you will find that this becomes a non-issue. And you find that this just becomes life, and you become one of those people who can indulge and have things spontaneously, but not have it be this big thing, not guilt themselves for it. Just make it be part of life and still be a healthy person who makes choices that are good for their body majority of the time, and you just find balance in that way. That's, in my opinion, what balance actually looks like. So just big picture, remember, thinking about myself 5 years ago compared to today. I hope that you guys, if you're in that place now, think about in 5 years, you're not actually going to remember those weekends that you overate. You're not going to remember every time that you felt a little bit bloated, that you felt puffy, inflamed. You're going to remember the experiences for what they were. You're going to remember the people you laughed with. You're going to remember the trips that you took. You're going to remember the memories that you made. Don't let those memories right now that are being formed be tainted by guilt. Do not let the guilt take over. That is not healthy. Health is not control. Health is not controlling every bite. I literally saw a quote yesterday that was something along the lines of, if you can only feel peaceful when everything is happening exactly how you want it to do, that's not peace, that's control. And if you're trying to,
that's powerful.
If you're trying to control every situation with food, then you're never going to actually experience peace with food. So if you want to create a life where you feel good in your body, yes, we might need to make some changes. Sometimes they're going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay. And sometimes when we're in those uncomfortable situations, we might not fully make decisions that we had planned on making. But if you guilt yourself for it, you'll continue to set yourself back. Create a life where you can feel good in your body and be present and enjoy life, and give yourself permission to not be perfect, to just work on creating that balance over time. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Boom. Mic drop.
So I hope this was helpful for you guys. If it was, do me a favor, screenshot it, post it on your story, share it with a friend. Just get it out to somebody who you feel like would benefit from it too. I think that's how we can continue to help more and more women, is just by spreading information that they need to hear. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all of you leaving reviews and all the great things that you guys have done for us. And we'll continue to do as much as we can for you by putting out free information for you guys. We'll be back next week with another great episode.
Bye, everybody.